Check. All right, we're good. So, welcome to the Center Core inaugural episode. I'm your host, Chris Ellis, to discuss my top takes on what's going on right now. Of course, the coverage I got today, NFL quarterbacks making the move. Of course, some blockbuster deals, including one that happened just a couple hours ago. Carson Wentz, Russell Wilson, making some big moves heading into the bigger markets. The drama in Lakerland. Where do the Lakers stand? Do they even make the playoffs? And do they even play in the first round? And what do the New York Knicks do now in what is currently a disastrous season that was filled with high expectations? Along with that, the NFL draft, where do my New York Giants go with the 5th and 7th picks in the top 10? Or do they get lucked out with a player? Do they go after Mitchell Trubisky and make a sweepstakes in the Big Apple with Daniel Jones? Also, the March Madness status and Iona. How do they get into the NCAA tournament? It's going to be a hot take. Also later, of course, next week also, I would like to get some questions from the fans. I can offer them my take, but let's just get the show on the road. First off, the big topic in the past couple of hours, the NFL, Russell Wilson, a Denver Bronco, traded from the Seattle Seahawks. This has been the big deal that the Broncos have been making. Of course, this does not involve Aaron Rodgers, who decided to come back to Green Bay after signing a 4-year, $200 million contract. Of course, the deal, made Aaron Rodgers one of the richest quarterbacks in the NFL and probably the highest player of all time. I'm not going to lie, Aaron Rodgers deserves at least $150 million guarantee. I mean, he is one of the best, but give that man a second Super Bowl by now. Green Bay, you make all the pieces, but what's going on in the playoffs? I mean, is Aaron Rodgers more of a playoff choker than what we usually know of? Because in my opinion, and honestly, Green Bay Packers have the talent on paper. The talent shows on the field. But why do they always fail in the playoffs? I mean, when you think of it, since Green Bay has last won the Super Bowl, they've made it to the NFC title game at least 4 times and failed every single time, which is pretty embarrassing. When you're up 19-7 against Seattle with what could have been the Rodgers-Brady Super Bowl we could have been looking for, or getting steamrolled in Atlanta in the Georgia Dome, that didn't look too good. Or when the San Francisco 49ers ran all around you, and that staggering defense just destroys that offensive line. Or in this case, yeah, you also got Tom Brady and the Buccaneers destroying you in your own territory, where the Buccaneers are one of those teams that not do so good in the cold and then fail. And then it looked like the 49ers karma continued when your special teams costed you a spot in the NFC title game and possibly the Super Bowl, where you could have played the LA Rams, where they instead wanted to win the whole thing. Of course, I mean, I'm not going to lie, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. I mean, you got to give him everything you need. It looks to me like Jordan Love, it could be a little longer to see him start a quarterback, but in my honestly right now, you got to give Aaron Rodgers everything at this moment. The Packers, I would trade those first-round picks. I would even go all in free agency. Just try to get this man what he deserves. I mean, the man really needs a second Super Bowl. He's one of the best to do it. But why can't the Packers give him the talent he deserves? But now moving forward, Russell Wilson is now a Denver Bronco. This is one of the big ones in the recent stories, of course, with the Denver Broncos getting Russell Wilson and a 5th-round pick, trading away quarterback Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and a defensive lineman. Of course, knowingly, along with some 1st and 2nd round picks. This is a move I seen coming, but I didn't know where Russell Wilson was going to go. Of course, I remember rumors a while back, his wife is rapper Ciara, she always wants to play in the big market. Of course, the rumors back in the past, wanted Russell Wilson to come play in a big market like New York, maybe the Giants. But it looks like Russell Wilson will now be in a Bronco uniform. And for Denver, looks like this is the guy they wanted. This is the man, looks like, that's going to be taking over Denver for the next few seasons. He's 33 on a solid contract. I'm sure there's going to be some free agent attention going on in Denver. Now that you got Russell Wilson playing for the Denver Broncos, Denver finally gets their guy. Does it make Denver a playoff team? I don't think so. I don't see them winning the division, knowing that you're also going to be dealing with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City every season. Along with that, you're also dealing with Derek Carr and the Raiders. And the Raiders made the wild card last year despite the John Gruden saga drama. And knowingly that they were the reason the Chargers didn't make the playoffs. And the Chargers literally missed the playoffs by a tie. Of course, they did lose in overtime, and it cost them big time. Of course, then you got Kansas City. Kansas City has been to the AFC title game every season since Patrick Mahomes took over as the starter. Of course, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21. This could be the fifth year in a row we could be seeing Kansas City host another AFC title game. Who knows if they'll even make it to Super Bowl 57? I mean, they fell off to Joe Burrow and the Bengals last season when they were up 21-3. Of course, but knowingly the Bengals will go on to lose the Super Bowl. And in my honest opinion, the Bengals in that Super Bowl, it looked like deja vu from the 80s all over again. And I saw it coming once I knew Cooper Kupp was going to be on a tear that night. I 100% knew that Joe Burrow, and again, give the guy a lot of credit. I like Joe Burrow. Great quarterback. This guy, I liked him in college when he was back in LSU. Of course, won the national championship at LSU. Probably one of the best Heisman seasons in a long, long time when you think of it. I mean, Joe Burrow, he's got a great future, and I'm not going to lie, that AFC North is going to be tough in 2022. Of course, knowing that you got Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, you got the Cleveland Browns. Maybe the Browns do better without Odell Beckham Jr. with a healthy roster. Maybe Baker Mayfield will be ready to go. Maybe you see the Pittsburgh Steelers surprising everybody like they did last season. Not many people thought Pittsburgh was even going to make the playoffs. But now that Pittsburgh is moving on to new life without Ben Roethlisberger. Of course, everything is shifting in a new direction. Of course, Russell Wilson now in Denver. I don't think Denver would make the playoffs. I mean, the Raiders are mediocre by any chance. I don't see them going far. They got lucky last season, but that AFC West is a tight division. And maybe we could be seeing maybe 3 wildcard teams making it. We don't even know because this is the NFL. Anything can happen. Of course, you look at the AFC East. I mean, Buffalo was the dominant force for a couple seasons. And then Bill Belichick found his way with Mac Jones. Belichick is one of the greatest to ever do it. And this man now has Mac Jones as his starter. I honestly think, to me, Mac Jones is the starter in New England. He's going to be the go-to guy. But Belichick, yeah, he is the greatest coach ever. But can he win without the greatest of all time by his side, though, is the question. Remember, Tom Brady's gone now. I mean, he is the greatest to ever do it. But if Belichick is the GOAT, which we all know he probably is in the NFL as the coach, can we see him win another Super Bowl? Can he bring the 7th Lombardi to New England with a different quarterback? Because when you think of it, Brady won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay without Belichick. I mean, he is the GOAT for a reason. Joe Montana won a Super Bowl without Bill Walsh by his side. That's greatness. Of course, yeah, Troy Aikman and Barry Switzer hate each other. Yeah, Troy Aikman won without Jimmy Johnson at the helm. You got to prove you can win without the greatest by your side. And for Belichick, though, it's just, he is a great coach, I'm not going to lie. But I also think he can win a Super Bowl with Mac Jones. Then you could cement his legacy as one of the greatest to ever do it. Without question. I mean, Russell Wilson now, he's with the Denver Broncos. The good news is he won't be getting sacked by Bradley Chubb any longer. But also, it's going to be crazy to say that Russell Wilson and the Broncos actually play at Seattle this season. So it's going to be an interesting reunion to see the Seahawks and the Broncos play against each other, especially when Russell Wilson is now in a Bronco jersey. It's going to be a crazy situation. Now, the recent trade that we also found out today, Carson Wentz is going to now the Washington Commanders. Of course, this is a surprise move to me. I did not think Carson Wentz, of all people, was going to get traded. My take on this trade is this. I mean, Carson Wentz and a second for a package of third-round picks, and one of them becomes a second-rounder if Wentz plays 70% of the season. This trade comes as a surprise to me. Washington, the Commanders were looking for a quarterback. They failed to get Russell Wilson. They offered 3 first-round picks. Seattle said no, which all I can say is, damn, how do you not take that? I mean, knowing that probably Seattle, in my opinion now, they look like they're in a retooling, rebuilding mode. I mean, and Bobby Wagner is now off the team. He just got released. Seattle could possibly be dealing everybody sooner or later. I mean, DK Metcalf is now going to work with Drew Lock at quarterback. It's not going to be like the same thing we saw with Russell Wilson and company. I mean, I don't even think Seattle can even make the playoffs now. I don't think Drew Lock is the quarterback. I don't think he's the type to take a team to the playoffs. I mean, you look at him, he's injury prone. You know, didn't have much work with in Denver, and Denver always relies heavily on defense. I mean, and I'll be all honestly, Russell Wilson's going to be the successor. In my opinion, he's going to be Peyton Manning's successor, even though Manning's been retired now for almost 7 seasons in the league. Russell Wilson is still going to be, I think, the main successor to Peyton Manning in retirement. But back to the Carson Wentz thing. The Colts, I don't know what they're trying to do. Just remember this. Wentz also nearly missed the playoffs as well. Wentz is a Super Bowl champion, but he tore his ACL the season that it all went wrong. Then you got the factor of you had to ride along with Nick Foles for a while. Of course, that didn't go all too well. Then you had the Eagles winning the whole thing. Then you get traded. You know, the Colts, in my opinion, when the Colts dealt for him, I thought it was the right move at the time. Now you're trading him to the Washington Commanders, where he's going to be facing the Colts also this season. He's also going to be back in the NFC East, which to many people, the NFC East is always that division. They have not had a back-to-back. Of course, the Cowboys are making cap space moves. The Giants, we're going to get into the Giants shortly. But is this the guy the Commanders are looking for? Is this going to be the guy that the Washington Commanders can go all the way with? This move to me comes as a surprise. I did not see this coming. I think because my original thought was that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be the top guy traded. And of course, he's been on trade rumors for the longest now. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's also a good quarterback. Remember, this guy led the Niners to a Super Bowl, but now they want Trey Lance in line. But San Francisco has the pieces, and I'm going to be honest here. I think Jimmy Garoppolo should go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is the perfect place for Jimmy Garoppolo. Many people, you watch, and you could disagree with me on this. Jimmy Garoppolo should be a Tampa Bay Buck. That's simple. I don't care if you have to give up a first-round pick to do it. Tampa should trade for Jimmy Garoppolo with all those pieces when it comes to Mike Evans and Leonard Fournette, O.J. Howard, all those guys. The O-line is great. Tampa should trade for this guy. Bruce Arians is a quarterback coach. This guy coached Ben Roethlisberger in his young days in Pittsburgh. This guy coached Tom Brady to a Super Bowl title. Get Jimmy Garoppolo, and maybe he can prove his fate like that. I think Tampa should do it. If Tampa does not trade for him, I don't know who's going to be the starter in Tampa, but I think he should go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's the perfect fit. Yeah, maybe the players might get a little pissed off about it, but in the end, you want to build a winning culture. Garoppolo's been to a Super Bowl. Yeah, he didn't win it, but he had the tools to get there. Bruce Arians is the guy. He's coached quarterbacks. He's won a Super Bowl. This guy's done it all. Tampa should go for that. Now, when you think of it, though, Carson Wentz, though, in Washington, he's going to be working with Terry McLaurin, who I think is one of the fastest receivers in the league. Of course, Washington last season finished third in the division. Last season, they won the division in COVID with no fans, with a under 500 record. But is this going to be the change in Washington? Is Carson Wentz going to be the guy? Now, are they going to be a playoff team? No. Why? You still got to worry about the Cowboys twice a year. You still got to worry about the Eagles. My New York Giants, they should not even be in the questioning right now because we're going to get to them shortly, and I have a lot to cover on the Giants. But Carson Wentz, though, the least thing I could say about it, at least you didn't give up a first. You gave up a first, you overdid the deal. But the Carson Wentz trade has been a surprise. The Colts are now on their 5th quarterback since Andrew Luck has left the league. And who are they going to stick to, honestly? Because it seems to me the Colts just ran out of luck trying to figure out who they want to put at the helm. I mean, you had Andrew Luck, but then he abruptly quit. You had Carson Wentz. That failed miserably. You missed the playoffs because all you had to do was beat the team that's going to be picking first overall next month, and you couldn't do that. Now the Colts are on their 5th quarterback. I don't know who it's going to be. The rumor says it might be Jimmy Garoppolo. I honestly think that could happen too. I think maybe draft night comes around. I would say Jimmy G is the guy. I think Jimmy G might get traded on draft night, but there's still a lot more to go. Who's going to go where? Now, sticking to the football topic, we got the New York Giants, which has been the hot topic always when it comes to this. The Giants, you had a disastrous season. Last season, the Giants looked absolutely miserable. Daniel Jones, I don't know how he is still on this team. And even the ownership admitted they screwed up in every single possible way when it comes to the coaching staff. The good news, Dave Gettleman is gone. That was big problem number one. Joe Judge went out with him because knowing that when you go for a new GM, they're gonna want their guy at the helm instead. So when you think of it, though, yeah, it was a go move. It had to happen. Now we're bringing home some Buffalo Mafia culture with the new GM Joe Sheehan and the head coach Brian DeBull. Here's what and now they're also saying that Mitchell Trubisky could be coming to New York to try to take over the starting job. The Giants cannot fail with this coaching staff with Daniel Jones. I would give Daniel Jones one season, this season only, to prove himself. You can't fail this now. You got Josh Allen's offensive coordinator as the head coach. You have the quarterback coach who guided Patrick Mahomes to greatness. You fail now, and Daniel Jones should be out the door. It's that simple. You can't. He's been given so much time, so much mediocrity, and maybe the GM will also pick up some better players. And again, we're going to get into that shortly with the 2 first-rounders. The Giants also had that first-rounder last season from the Bears, which I have to say, at least that was a good idea. I mean, yeah, they also had a bad season. I mean, Justin Fields didn't have the best rookie season. Of course, the Bears fired their head coach, and they don't have their first-round pick because the Giants had it. So, honestly, to say, it was pretty good for now, but we don't know who those picks are going to be. The Giants, though, however, have another issue. It's called cap space. Gettleman last season, remember, spent $70 million on free agency. And they also had the first-round selection as well. So when you think of it, the Giants have a lot to worry about. Now, they're not picking first, and we all know for a factor that the first overall pick of the draft is probably going to be, I think, Evan Neal from Alabama or maybe Michigan defensive end Aiden Hutchinson. But the Giants are sitting at number 5 and number 7. Carolina picks 6. Maybe Carolina wants to trade that 6 to go up to 7. We don't know. The Giants need a lot of pieces, and I think if you want to begin, with all honesty, cut the cap space. If you save some cap now, then you can actually work around. You can work around in this draft. Because I'll tell you one thing now, the Giants have screwed up so many drafts, and this is coming from someone that's been a fan. The last pick I can remember that was good was probably Saquon Barkley. Since then, we've passed up on so many elite stars. We've even dealt Odell Beckham Jr., which that one hurts a lot, especially when you sign a player not to trade him. That was just another heartbreaker. The Giants need change. I mean, they went outside the organization. This is a franchise that normally likes to stay in the house, but they finally went outside the box finally with these hires. Of course, and this is the same team that has missed the playoffs for the past 6 seasons. We haven't won a Super Bowl in 10 years. This year we'll actually mark 11 with 57 coming up. And you also just, in all factors, they gotta fix this ship before it sinks once again. If I'm the Giants and I'm the GM, I'd cut the veterans that are making like $15-20 million a season. I would look at the unwanted. I would look at first round picks. I would look at who should we go after? Who's going to be the guy that's going to improve this team? Because let's look at it. We don't got an elite wide receiver. We don't have a great tight end. The O-line is like meh, which, in honesty, that's been the biggest train wreck of them all. The defense, it's just like, where the hell do we go from here? You've had made picks on defense. I mean, let's just not forget, you picked one draft, I think the Giants had used 3 first rounders, and one of them decided to get shot in a robbery and then not be the same ever since. And then he just committed flag after flag after flag. If you remember DeAndre Baker, who was like the 30th pick, I don't know how that name even came up to me just now. That was just another complete fluke. I mean, this is a guy that got shot in a freaking in a car robbery. And John Mara is that type of owner where it's like, if you commit a crime or any mischief, you're out the door. It's that simple. He has no room for people that want to do a lot of BS around here. It's straight work, it's straight business, and that's what we have to do. That's all you have to do. So I'm hoping that the New York Giants actually make a good draft out of this one. You can't fail this one with 2 first-round picks, top 10 selected, and the new coaching staff, which involves Josh Allen's offensive coordinator, his passing game coordinator, and the same quarterback coach that guided Patrick Mahomes to greatness. You just can't fail that. If you fail that, I would trade Daniel Jones in a heartbeat. Just get rid of him because he's had so much time to prove himself, and it's just not panned out. I can't really label him as a bust because Dwayne Haskins, who was probably the top quarterback of that draft that he was in, hasn't done so much either except get in trouble with the law. Maybe he'll revive himself in Pittsburgh. Maybe not. But Daniel Jones, it's make it or break it season for you, or else you're out of the Big Apple. Maybe Mitchell Trubisky could take over. Who knows? But the draft class this season, too, with the NFL is not big on quarterbacks. So I would just hold my breath on this one for a QB change, in all honesty. Now, next up, the drama in Lakerland. We all know that the Lakers have been the hot topic this season. My opinions on the Lakers. You made the trade for Westbrook. You have LeBron James. You got Anthony Davis. But the Lakers are just, where the hell do you go from here? I mean, the Westbrook trade seems to me looking like a flop and a half. Probably the worst deal the team has ever made, ever. Even though they're known for greatness players like Kobe and Shaq and Magic and Kareem, this is the same team that also had the expectations of making it to the finals. And right now, they're sitting currently in the play-in bracket. Yes, the play-in bracket. With everyone getting hurt. And the situation getting so bad for the Lakers that Russell Westbrook is coming off the bench. The triple-double king last season that passed the big O for most triple-doubles ever coming off the bench. And this is the same guy that won the MVP averaging a triple-double. I mean, are you kidding me? Lakers should have been at least past the sixth seed if they were going to be this bad. I mean, now there's reports saying they might even make the playoffs. And this is going to rely heavily on LeBron James, knowing because of all the GOAT conversations comparing him to Michael Jordan. Is he still the greatest to do it? Does he still have it all left in him? This is the same guy that, remember, has been to 10 finals. He's lost 6. He's won 4. And LeBron James still has much left to prove. He's 37 right now. This is age 37 season. He still has a month to go in the season to try to get the Lakers back up in the business. But Lakers also, again, Phoenix is defending Western champs. The Warriors are healthy and back to where they are. They're going to get Draymond Green probably back next week. That's, according to a report, he's going to be the target of coming back to play. You also got the Memphis Grizzlies, who actually surprised me. I didn't think the Grizzlies were going to be a top 5 seed in the West. I mean, John Morant's having a hell of a season for the star point guard at Murray State. I mean, that pick's probably the best pick the Grizzlies have made in forever. And then you also have the Nuggets. The Nuggets are still injury prone, but Jokic is still doing his thing. Jamal Murray's going to be coming back. The problem with the Nuggets right now, you have the young core. You just need to be healthy. The health is the most important thing for them right now. You got to be healthy. You got to be ready to go. Then you also have the others. Now, there's also the play-in, like I said, where the Clippers are in, Minnesota. Right now, the Lakers are in the play-in bracket. But I don't know if they're even going to make it this far. I mean, let's remember this. Remember this. Last season, the Lakers were in the play-in bracket. and barely survived against Steph Curry and the Warriors and the injury-prone Warriors, with the Warriors being the same team that almost a season ago was the worst in the league because of all the injuries. I mean, now you look at it, the Warriors are now the 2 seed in the West, and I'm not surprised by that. Many people say, oh, the Warriors were done after KD left. I disagreed with that because the Warriors are still good. They still have great young assets. I mean, last 2 seasons, I could say the Warriors have been gathering a lot of young talent to build around Steph, Clay, and Draymond. I mean, Jordan Poole's been, I think, a hell of a draft steal from the University of Michigan. You also had Moses Moody, Jonathan Kaligma, James Wiseman with the second pick. The Warriors are good. And it doesn't surprise me to say that they're the second seed because they're fully healthy. I mean, this is the same team that also they kind of blended in with the culture. I mean, Steve Kerr has also made it to the finals before. He's won the whole gig. He's built around, he's part of the Phil Jackson tree that also won six NBA titles. Steve Kerr is a great guy. And, the Golden State, right now, I could see them in the Western Conference Finals against Phoenix. I mean, that's going to be the series that's probably going to be talked about the most. Now, the Lakers, though, I don't know if they're even going to make it the first round. Like, right now, the Lakers are so bad. It's like, where do you go from there? I don't even think they're, and like I said, I don't think they're even going to make it out of the play-in round because they still got to play the LA Clippers. You still got to play the Timberwolves. The New Orleans Pelicans the other night embarrassed them, and the Pelicans don't even have Zion Williamson. Zion's supposed to be the franchise player, and possibly he could be on the move. I don't know if it's true, and I honestly think this. Zion gets fed up in New Orleans. I could see this man on the New York Knicks. I even know for a fact about another guy, and we're going to talk about the Knicks shortly when we shift gears. But the Pelicans, yeah, you have the young core. You traded for CJ McCollum, but Pelicans don't have a star player. Zion's not going to be the piece. Zion's the young asset, but he's not the big piece. And Zion, I watched him at Duke. I mean, the guy put on a freaking hell of a show. I mean, the guy really could do it all. I mean, the first time I even watched him against Kentucky in college, 100% everyone knew that Duke was going to win the whole thing. And of course, you know what happened? They didn't. Zion, of course, then screwed his ankle up against North Carolina, and then the whole, the rest of the story. They lose the Elite Eight and go forward. But now we're going to shift to the East. Now, the Eastern Conference is kind of a shift in the playoff push. But also, my questioning of, do the Lakers even make the playoffs? Right now, I give them a 25% chance of even getting to the first round. And I give them 25% of 100 because I don't think they're going to make it out of the play-in. I don't think they're going to make the first round. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. 25%. I give the Lakers 25% chance of even getting to the first round of the playoffs. With everything going right now, all the drama, all the baloney, all the injuries, the Lakers, that's as far as I give them to go. And then LeBron will, and then LeBron James, I don't even consider him the GOAT after that. When you shift now to the East, the Eastern Conference, you had the Sixers. Now, the Sixers were the top hot topic too, the East. Trading James Harden, who at that point was like, get me the hell out of this zoo called Brooklyn. Of course, James Harden, honestly, this is a guy that, remember, last season, Brooklyn traded like half their first-round picks, a couple young players that they had for Steve Nash to build around, and got James Harden. The farthest they then go is the second round, and they were that close to without Kyrie. You had Kyrie Irving for the whole 21 season, and then 2022 comes around. He's playing like 50% of the Nets games. And remember, last season, the Nets were probably like one buzzer beater or one game winner away from a trip to the Eastern Final without Kyrie. And they did with KD and James Harden. But the Bucks showed up and Giannis. But now, then James Harden gets so fed up in Brooklyn because, when you have the vaccine mandate in play and Kyrie not getting the vaccine where the rest of the team in the NBA got vaccinated because the NBA, because you want to throw in, honestly, a little politics. The vaccine mandate applied also to the NBA players in New York. So basically, everyone on the Knicks guy had to get vaccinated. Everyone in Brooklyn had to get vaccinated. And Kyrie's like, nope, I'm not getting the vaccine. So basically, because of that vaccine problem, was a reason why James Harden wanted out. Then Katie and James Harden just started to not like each other. And then James Harden wants to prove now his own fate by winning a championship in Philadelphia. Like Kyrie's been there and won a title in Cleveland. Kevin Durant won 2 titles in Golden State. James Harden, if the Rockets learned how to shoot 3-pointers in 2018, they would have made the finals, and Harden would have seen that experience. But in all honesty, Ben Simmons wanted out of Philadelphia. He also got held off. I don't even know if Ben Simmons even has a positive number in his bank account, knowing that he's probably lost about $500,000 in fines, and also learning about his luxurious lifestyle. This guy can also buy all the cars, all the fancy drip clothes, all the necklaces, all the jewelry. I mean, this guy's probably spent more money alone. The guy's lost millions of dollars. I don't even know if he's even broke right now, knowing with his mental health problems. And this guy now comes to a Brooklyn team with KD and Kyrie. I mean, it's back to KD and Kyrie, but now you're also looking at the factor of how far do the Nets go without James Harden? I would give them maybe the first round. I don't know about a second round. It depends who they play against. And I think, but again, James Harden just got to the point. He was just getting me out. And I don't blame him. He wants to prove himself. He can win. He wants to be the leader of the team to bring home a championship. I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, you still have to go through Giannis and the Bucks. You still have to go through the Bulls and Chicago. I said the Bulls in the start of the season. I thought the Bulls were going to be like a 4 or 5 seed. The Knicks, the same thing. But, Brooklyn right now, you're looking at maybe a first rounder for sure. If you make the play, and that's going to be embarrassing. I give them the first round at least, but I don't know how far they'll go. The Bucks on the title defense with Giannis. You still have to go through everybody else. But, yeah. And then there's the dreaded Knicks. Last season, oh my God, the Knicks are back. The Knicks are here. They're in the playoffs. Everything was just buzzing when, Trae Young becomes public enemy number 1. And I'm going to give you my honest opinion about Trae Young. He's the next MSG villain. He's going to be the next Reggie Miller that tortured and just traumatized the fans at MSG. If you remember Reggie Miller back in the day when Spike Lee and him had a confrontation courtside, Trae Young's going to be the next thing. He's going to be just like Reggie Miller in the playoffs. This is the same guy that also, the Knicks went down in 5, but, everyone thought, oh, this is the hope of the Knicks. You had the coach of the year in Tom Thibodeau. You had the most improved player. You had Derrick Rose, who was 6-man of the year candidate. But then the Knicks just fell off a bridge this season, and I can really say it showed. I mean, this is now you now got the Knicks who are out of the playoffs. Kemba Walker is shut down for the season to prep for next season. Julius Randle was frustrated in New York. Maybe some even say he requested a trade. Then you got Derrick Rose getting hurt and then all these injuries and these young players. If I'm the New York Knicks right now, with everything going on and your play-in hopes are basically out the door, I would just tank. I would just go for the best draft pick possible. You're not going to win the number 1 pick like Paolo Banchero from Duke or Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga, but the Knicks I think could be in the top 10. I don't know who they're going to be taking though in the NBA draft. I mean, my honest opinion would be Kentucky guard Ty Washington, but I disagree about that. I've kept up with Kentucky all season. I don't think Ty would be the right choice. I mean, he had the sprained ankle against Auburn. He had to miss a few games, but right now the Knicks, if I'm the Knicks right now, I would just load out that cap space. I would go after a big name star. And I know for a fact that Dolan is a guy that was very cheap and, try to do everything. I think now everyone has noticed he kept his mouth shut. Now he's in the front office, take care of everything. I mean, this guy's a billionaire. He's got to do everything. He's got to let his people do everything. He can't just step in and just say, oh, I want the check here and there. But the Knicks, I would just prepare for what's to come next. I would just play it safe. I would give Thibodeau another season. I wouldn't fire him. Great guy. I'm not going to lie. He's a great, great coach. He's won Coach of the Year. He's done it all. Of course, he was the coach when Derrick Rose won the MVP award. And, he was the coach when Randall won Most Improved. But you got to build a little bit of a star power around the Knicks. Yep, I like Barrett and I like Randall. But who do you go after next? Who do you go after next? I don't know that answer. Maybe I would say maybe another guard, but I would just it's still early to call. I mean, it's March. This draft ain't till about June, and we're gonna be jumping into March Madness shortly because right now the March Madness also can determine who goes far, who goes home, and and I'd say this too. March Madness also helps with draft prospect ratings. This is how you gain attention in the NBA draft when you look at the March Madness. Now, the March Madness itself, we're in conference tournament rounds. Shout out to the Iona Gales tonight. Hopefully, they get that win against Ryder, of course, in the advance to the semifinals of the MAC. But now, some of this again, some teams it's automatic bids. Some teams have already made it. And you also look at some of the others. They also go by strength and who they've played against. But Gonzaga's already in, and Chet Holmgren's a top 5 pick. Of course, the SEC tournament is going to come down to probably 4 teams. I'd say Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Auburn, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Kentucky. I think those are the 4 teams that are going to fight for that SEC title, of course. And then again, there is some talent on that team. I think even Auburn, I've seen a lot of Jabari Smith talk, him being the possible number 1 overall pick. That's debatable. But he still has to prove himself. Again, he's still got the SEC. Auburn's most likely going to be a 1 seed the way they've been playing. I mean, their only defeats this season were to UConn, Arkansas, and Tennessee. But it's the conference tournament. It's neutral sites. You're not playing on their campus. You're playing in Tampa, Florida to try to prove your March Madness fate. Kentucky's another one. They've gotten a lot of great players. I mean, Kentucky's the same thing. They even knocked off the Kansas Jayhawks in January in a game that I even didn't see coming. Most people don't even win in Kansas, and they did it. But they're probably going to be a 2 seed most likely. And I think if they win the SEC tournament, they knock off, most likely they're going to be playing maybe Tennessee, maybe Auburn. I can give them a 1 seed, but not the overall one. I think the overall one is going to be Auburn or Gonzaga. I'm just saying Gonzaga to play it safe. Then you also have to worry about, the 2s. Kentucky's probably going to be the 2. Duke's most likely going to be 2. And, Duke's going to be playing Syracuse tomorrow after Syracuse won by almost 40 today to Florida State. I mean, that was pretty nuts. But now we're going to shift gears real quick. Now, Iona's in it too. Iona had a great season. The Patino thing has been the hot commodity. Win the MAC, I 100% think they're going to do it. Right around 1, that should be an easy win. Then you got to go win the whole thing. I think Iona's got it locked up. I'm 100% positive they're going to win the MAC. Now, where does it put them in the tournament? Now, most of the time, Iona, you see them as a 15 or 16. I think they're going to be higher than that this season. Iona also did, knock off number 10 Alabama, which was a big win. When you look at the scheduling that they had and everything that was going on, I mean, Iona also knocked off a top 10 opponent, which was really good this season. Now, I give them a lot of props because, the team had one heck of a season to even make first place, perfect home record, regular season championship. And now they can just win the MAC title and maybe, hopefully, a first-round win, which I don't know who Iona would be playing against. Of course, my guess is probably going to be another SEC opponent. My guess would be Tennessee, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's just a bold prediction. But we still have to make sure they win the MAC and they win and they make the first round because I think they're going to be higher than a 16 or 15 like they did almost every season. Last time they were a 15 seed. The season before that, 2 seasons before that, they were also there. But, you just gotta have confidence in them. And they've had a great season. Again, perfect home record, first one in 5 seasons. That's pretty amazing. Of course, the Patino effect. Patino's staying at Iona. I don't see him going anywhere. Yeah, Maryland gonna make a coaching change. Louisville's not even bringing him back because of the last time thing that happened. But in my honest opinion, Patino's not going nowhere. He's going to finish and end his coaching career at Iona. I don't see him going anywhere else. I clearly don't. He even stated that he's not going to leave because he's fine where he is. This is where he wants to be. This is where he's going to stay. I mean, and of course, I also think too, like now that Iona's got Patino, it's going to attract some power schools. I mean, there's some rumors maybe Kentucky and John Calipari's squad would play against them. You also got, some other guys play against them. I mean, Alabama. I mean, we did knock off Alabama in Florida, the ESPN events. Unfortunately, they did get knocked off by Kansas. But then again, Kansas is one of those powerhouse schools that you're either A, you're going to win against, or B, it's going to be a close battle to the end. In Kansas, I give them props though. But, all this tournament stuff is going to be critical. Of course, next week, I'm going to dive into the bracket of the March Madness because, Sunday, March the 13th, or actually when we come back from the break, I will look into the March Madness, see how far it goes, look at also some of the upsets that have happened. Also, maybe the update on LeBron. And also, on the next episode, I'm also going to be taking a look at some other stuff. But then again, Iona, win the MAC. You're probably going to be in the first round as a higher seed. And I'm going to be honest, if they put them lower than 14, I'm going to give them 14 to be safe. But 13, I think, is where they're going to be seated. If they're lower than that, with everything they've had this season, someone's got to check in with the committee. It's that simple. Because you have to look at strength. You have to look at competition, who they've played against. Because if you look into all that stuff, then they're going to be like, okay, let's see this and that happen. I mean, it's the road to the Superdome this season for March Madness, and it's just getting started. I mean, some teams have there's even some other crazy incidents that have happened so far in the conference tournaments. I mean, you look at the NEC tournament between Brian and Wagner. It was Wagner versus the fans. I mean, it's all about March. It's all about the madness, and it's good. And it's just getting started. I mean, we're just warming up with some of the first rounders. I mean, we're going to be even seeing the March, the real thing happen. I mean, you look at the Pac-12 with UCLA and Arizona. I think they're going to play each other again. But everything, in my opinion, is going to be close to call. It's going to come down to the final seconds. It's going to come down to the final play. But this is where the real magic begins. And all I have to say is this. Just win. Because that's what you got to do to win the whole thing. That's all you got to do. Because if you do that, you're going to succeed. It's going to be everything you do. And, coming from someone that's been watching college hoops for a long time, I mean, I've watched the heartbreak games. I've watched the Final Four endings. I've watched a lot. I even will give out my predicted take, in the coming shows. I'll even take my pick on who's going to win the national championship. But it's too early to call. I mean, in my honest opinion, here's who I think. I'll give you some predictions of who I think is going to win each conference right now. I'll take Iona to win the MAC. I'm going to take Duke to win the ACC. I think Duke's going to win the ACC 100% sure. The Pac-12, I'd give it to Arizona because Arizona's just been the team, even though I'm not really a fan of the Pac-12 being a big division, but I think Arizona, I give Arizona Pac-12. I'll give Iona the MAC. I'll give Duke the Big East, the ACC. In the Southeast, I'm going to be underdog. give me Kentucky to win the SEC. I'm going to say Kentucky. I think, honestly, because Kentucky can knock off Tennessee in neutral site. I think it's happened before. Plus, if they play Auburn for the SEC title, I could see the potential finale I could see the rematch happening. Maybe Kentucky will walk out this time on top. Big 12. I'm between Kansas and I'm between Baylor. Baylor is the defending national champ. But I will go with, you know what? Give me Kansas to win the Big 12. And then the Big East tournament, I'm going to say Villanova for Big East. Villanova, because I think they do better at Madison Square Garden. And when you play at the Garden, I feel like there's also a higher chance of an upset happening. I mean, it's happened almost over time. I mean, Georgetown last season won the Big East and no one saw it coming. And now you got Georgetown's one of the worst now in the Big East. Sorry, St. John's. Also, I would say the Big Ten. I would say I'm going to go with Big Ten. I'm going to take Wisconsin for safety purposes. I think Wisconsin's the favorite in that one. I take them over Illinois, even though they're both tied. I think that could be the final. But give me Wisconsin to win the Big Ten. And also, I'm going to say that, I mean, because some have already been filming. Gonzaga's already got an automatic bid and some other ones. But yeah, I think that's who I think is going to win the important conference titles. Those are the important ones in my opinion, because those, I guarantee you, those come down to the wire. I don't know. The Cinderella team, I don't know who that's going to be yet either. I mean, every season we have a Cinderella team. When you think of like Loyola Chicago a couple seasons back, or UCLA the last season from the first four to the final four, and we're one buzzer beater off from a national title game. Honestly, my prediction for the Cinderella team in the March Madness tournament, I think it's going to be between the Cinderella team. I think I'm not going to say the team. I'm going to say it by seed. I'm going to say between a 4 seed and an 8 seed. That's like a good range, I could say at least, because that range, it's a fair range, because double-digit seeds rarely advance far. The 1 seeds always have the highest expectations of advancing. And then the 2 seeds, I give them a shot, but they're not really Cinderella teams because they're always the favorites as well, unless they're matched with a school that like everybody knows about, and it's gonna come down to the wire. But anyway, also along with that, it's all neutral site. And of course, the Final Four is also going to be in New Orleans, the Superdome. So it's going to be a bigger environment, a bigger atmosphere. I mean, it happens all the time. So it's like, when you think of it, you got New Orleans, the Superdome. By the way, I don't know how New Orleans is a basketball city. I mean, it's mostly known for the Saints. But that's something we'll dive into another week. But yeah. So I think that covers it for the first episode of my Center Court podcast. Next episode, we're going to look into more. We're going to look into the March Madness. We're going to look into the March Madness for sure. Also, the status of the play-in. Who's still in, who's still out. Along with that, my reaction to some of the conference title games, some of my reactions to some of the March Madness games. Of course, we're going to be a little away for a while, so we'll be back. I also thinking about the NFL updates on the draft, and also who could possibly go where. Maybe we could see some potential trades, maybe swaps. I don't know. And my list for NBA, my top 5 favorite players right now. That will be the next episode. I will list my top 5 best players in the league as of that date. Along with that, I will also list out my top 5 NFL wide receivers who I think really is the best in the league. And the updated NFL of my top 5 quarterbacks, who I favor and who I think will go far in 2022. Along with that, that's going to about cover it. I'm Chris Ellis for Center Court, and I will see you all in the next episode of Center Court. Peace.